Well, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Welcome, hello. Thank you for joining us for this summer sampler, Lunch and Learn, brought to you by the Professional Development Center at University of Washington and South Sound Business Magazine. We're excited to present these free sessions to folks over the summer to give you a preview of our classes and understand a little bit more about our amazing instructors. My name is Hillary Ryan, and I use she, her pronouns. I am the marketing manager here at Professional Development Center. And if you're not familiar with the PDC, we are a self-supporting unit specifically focused on delivering non-degree professional programs ranging from short webinars to full certificates and customized trainings. We do all kinds of things. Today's Lunch and Learn will run approximately 1 hour, and I'll turn it over to our featured speaker, Nathan, after a few quick housekeeping items. As I mentioned, when you entered, your mics are turned off, but the chat is open, and Nathan assures me he's going to be doing lots of things in the chat, so make sure you can see your chat box. And if you'd, we have turned on audio transcript for this session, so that will be available as well. If there's anything else, I will get to it. I'm continuing to add folks as we go along here, but I will turn it over to Nathan.
Thank you, Hillary. I was going to ask too if you can help me out when it comes to the chat comments. We'll pick some random chat comments. So welcome. Thank you for taking the time to join us today to go over creating powerful problem and powerful goal statements. My name is Nathan Navarro, and I will be facilitating this session to you today. And I'm excited. I'm very excited about this session, creating powerful problem statements and goal statements today. Give a little bit of my background here. And while I'm giving my background, it'd be really interesting if you can, in your chat, write your name. And of course, you got your names popping up, but also workplace and position. And while we're doing that, we've got a lot of folks here today. We'll randomly select some folks just to kind of get a lay of the land, if you will, of the type of organizations that are represented here today. Again, my name is Nathan Navarro, and I do a number of things, but I have over 20 years experience in continuous improvement, supporting administrative, manufacturing, government, medical types of work organizations. During the daytime, I work for the City of Seattle Light in the People and Culture Group. I've been there for 5 years. Prior to that, I worked at the Boeing Company for 17 years. And I have internal Lean and Lean Six Sigma training and experience, and external as well. And I've had the privilege of working with some great vendors and contractors in this industry. So just kind of a framework as we're getting into creating powerful goals and powerful problem statements. It's going to have more of a continuous improvement Lean Six Sigma framework to it. And I'll get more into the specifics. I see in the chat that we have about 26 responses. Hillary, would you like to name off a few?
Sure. We have, let's start back here at the beginning. We have Roz Jenkins, a service equity program manager with Seattle City Light. Welcome, welcome. We have Tammy Wild, Department of Health project manager. Justine Miracle, Washington Department of Health senior project manager. Catherine Roberts, UW Medicine, Education and QA Manager. Andrea Delaney from Centralia College, Administrative Services Manager. And let's see, Sam Caldwell from UW School of Medicine, Department of Medicine, Agreements Manager. We have a lot of folks that are in the public service and working for the university, so or in education. So welcome.
Amazing. Welcome, everyone. We have a great diversity here. Also, one of the things I didn't mention is I've been teaching for the University of Washington in the evening and weekends, sometimes for 10 years. So I've been a little over 10 years teaching Lean Six Sigma, Green Belt and Black Belt, value stream mapping, and also teach at Everett Community College their management and high performance management courses as well. Okay. Can everyone see my screen? I'll take a thumbs up or a chat or thank you. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. So what we're going to be going over today is we're going to go over creating problem statements. Some of the prerequisites to keep in mind with problem statements, some bad problem statement examples. Talk about SMART goals, poorly defined goals, and some powerful goal statement examples during this time. And then we'll go over our conclusion. Just for a brief overview, you'll get copies of this the slides I'm going over today, but upcoming courses that we do have an online Lean Six Sigma Black Belt that's going to be starting in September. And a value stream mapping. I'm excited about that because it's going to be a blended course between online and in-person coming up, and a white belt course coming up as well. Again, these will be offered to you, and if you have any questions, you can contact the Professional Development Center. All right, here we go. So here's something interesting, right? Quote from Albert Einstein, right? If I had an hour to solve a problem, I'd spend 55 minutes thinking about the problem and 5 minutes thinking about the solution. There's the more time that we spend up front understanding the problem, the more effective we're going to be with coming up with effective solutions, right? So there's some heavy lifting that comes up front when it comes to defining the problem. Okay, and before we get into how, I'd like to go into the why this is important, right? And some of the reasons why it's important to have good problem statements is it clarifies your situation. Also, the significance of the situation that you're facing. It also serves as a great communication tool. When we're able to communicate the severity and the significance of our problem, it also helps those involved prioritize what's important. It helps you to gain buy-in and helps other folks that aren't in the situation or related to the situation understand what you're trying to accomplish. Here are a couple of prerequisites to consider when creating a powerful problem statement. We got to think about with the prerequisites. We got to think about how do we go about figuring out what things should be, right? And it starts with the voice of the customer. And the voice of the customer, sometimes it's a bit challenging to put that into something that's measurable, right? So we got to be able to understand, what do the customers want? And how can we track that? How could we measure that? A great understanding of the organizational strategy also assists us when we're going to create a problem statement based on the customer needs. Okay, this shows us what the organization wants to do, whether they want to see themselves in 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 5 or 7 years. Okay. A visual process performance measurements also assist greatly with creating a problem statement that you can refer to. It's a visual translation of the strategy, whether it's the key things that an organization wants to focus on, such as the key performance indicators. Their visual process performance measurements also include images, illustrations, or charts on how the organization is right now and how they want to see themselves in the future. Okay, it should include numeric targets and goals. So basically, when we're getting into your numeric targets and goals, we lead into our metrics. right? So you also want to consider what metrics, are there metrics in place? Our metrics track how well we're doing towards moving to our future state. So it's kind of measuring the performance of our processes. Now, from a Lean Six Sigma perspective, we're looking at our processes as a series of tasks or activities that turn an input into what we're giving to our customer, right? So if we know how we're performing according to our customer requirements, whether that be external or internal, it's going to help us to determine where we're at and if we have a problem and how significant our problem is. So a couple of things to keep in mind before getting into our problem statements. Okay. Now, if you're missing any of these, I'd encourage you to work on trying to get some of this information prior to coming up with your problem statement. Okay. A problem statement is and you see that it's bolded, clear and concise, right? Specific, that shows a description of where you're at now and where your future state or where you should be. It helps to define that gap, right? That's why your prerequisites are so important, because they help you to define your goalposts and your gap. Now, from a Lean Six Sigma perspective, a continuous improvement perspective, here's something, some of the differences between project management and continuous improvement. In continuous improvement, we don't really know what the root cause is up front, right? We don't really know what the solution is until we dig into the problem. In some cases with project management, you have your objective already, you have your solution that needs to be implemented out using the phases of project management, right? In this case, we're taking on the Lean Six Sigma perspective, meaning we have an issue, we have a problem, and most of the problems that we're seeing are symptomatic, right? So keep that in mind. So with that in mind, when we're creating a problem statement, we want to include a few things. How long has this been a problem, right? In some cases, it's been inherited. In some cases, we can back up a few months to a decision that was made when the problem started, okay? Your problem statement should also have specific numbers. And why? Specific numbers are important because they help provide clarity. They also help inspire confidence in the problem statement that you're creating. Numbers show that you have a good understanding of the problem and that we know what we're talking about, right? That we did our due diligence to see how much of a problem we have. It should state where the problem is, whether that's a physical location, whether it's a site, a different site, or if it's a physical work location and or a specific part in the process. Your problem statement should have a clear scope. This is what the problem is, but it should also define and help clarify what is not the problem, okay? And it should include a measurable impact of the problem. We're going to be going over some examples in a bit. Okay. We don't want to include in a problem statement blame. So one of the things that we promote in Lean Six Sigma and in continuous improvement is a blame-free culture, right? If employees raise their hand and they want to share a problem that happened and they're going to get blamed, more than likely they're going to be a little shy about bringing that problem up, right? So we want to have respect for people, right? And know that most of the problems that we're having in the workplace are related to outdated, overcomplicated processes, right? So we want to omit blame. We don't want to include blame. In a process improvement Lean Six Sigma problem statement, we shouldn't have a solution, right? If we know what the solution is already, we'll project management it out. But in the Lean Six Sigma, we know that most of the issues that we see or experience are symptomatic of something else, right? So they should not include a solution. The reason why it should include another reason why it shouldn't include a solution is because sometimes the solutions could be an assumption. And when we make an antidote for an assumption, it could make our workplace more complicated, and it can cause the issue to expound or get worse. Okay. So again, it shouldn't have the cause, right, of the issue in the problem statement, right? Because we haven't performed root cause analysis yet. And it definitely shouldn't have opinions and or lengthy, broad, vague statements involved. Okay. So I'm going to go over a few examples of some powerful problem statements that include some of the things we went over earlier. And then later on, what I'm going to ask you to do is we're going to look up some bad examples. And I'm going to ask you in the chat button that when we get to the next slide to point out what are some of the things that are missing in our problem statements. But let's look at some examples first. Again, it's bolded here that your problem statement should be short and concise. 1 sentence, 2 sentence, perfect, right? So here's an example. In 2019, 18% of the pizza deliveries took longer than the 30-minute delivery time requirement, resulting in a 15% drop in delivery sales. So one of the things we're asking is, how long? How long has this been a problem, right? The other piece that we're looking for in a problem is how much? How much of a problem in numbers? Now, when we're first starting and we have our first draft of our problem statement, we may not have all of the data, right? But we want to work towards getting the data, okay? So here's one example. There's another example, right? So how long? Well, between July and August of 2020. How much? 12% of part 1, 2, 3, 4 failed the final acceptance test. And what's the result of this problem, right? Well, we have a rework and scrap delays worth $18,000 per month. Again, so we covered the how long, how much, and the results of the problem. Okay, so keep this in mind. Although we look for those 3 elements, those main 3 elements, there's no perfect problem statement. But we should include the how much, using numbers, the results of the problem, and how long it's been a problem. So we went over some examples. Now what we're going to do is we're going to look at some poor problem statements. And I'm going to ask you in the chat button for each problem statement that I bring up to see what's missing. Okay. So we've got our first one. Employee morale has reduced pizza sales by 12%. What's wrong with this problem statement? I'm interested to see in the chat what's missing here. Think about the previous slide that we went over, right? That mentioned what to omit and what to include in a problem statement. And, would you mind helping me out with the chat responses again?
Sure. So we have how long is missing, correlation, how long the problem has been occurring, length of time, lots of time, no time, includes blame and assumes root cause without evidence, no time period, timing, time frame, time. You put a
Very,
cause in it. Blame.
very nice. Very nice. Good work. Good practice, right? You caught them all, right? There's some blame here. How long has this been a problem, right? And then it also says the cause. It has the cause in here, right? Let's look at the next one. Since Janet started working in September, customers have to wait too long. What's wrong with that problem statement? You can see a few examples in the chat. All right.
We've got blame, no measurable attribute to define too long. Time, blame, unclear what the problem is. How long the wait is. How long did they wait before September? How long are they waiting now?
Rock and roll. Awesome. These are the questions that you want to be asking as you're looking at your problem statements, right? First is putting the blame on Janet, right? What is too long? 5 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, right? So great examples. How about this one? Hear this one a lot. Better training can correct the 18% drop in sales over the last 3 months so that we can make our year-end forecast. What's wrong with this one?
Solution is included.
Yeah, for process improvement, Lean Six Sigma, we know that most of the problems that we're seeing are symptomatic, right? So even if after doing the results and doing the deep dive and there is training, what are you seeing to show that there's a need for training, right? So what's the problem? Good. The service desk takes too long to solve customer requests. What's wrong with this one?
Okay, they're rolling in. No metrics. What is too long? Blame, no metrics. Blame, no measurement. Everything. Everything's wrong with me. Blame, no specific time frame. No measurements of anything.
Thank you. Well done. And then, of course, we've got another example here. Too much. How much is too much? Right? Material. What type of material is being scrapped? How long has this been a problem? What are the results and measurable numbers, right? So everyone, you did a great job in finding some of the elements that we're looking for in a problem statement. And this is something that you can take with you, right? When you're going to, whether you're practicing it, right? Or you see something submitted to your team or you're participating, right? You can take this with you and think about these elements that we look for, okay? So we looked at the benefits earlier, but what are some of the results of having a poor problem statement? Before I go to the next slide, can somebody please, a few of you, please in the instant message chat, what do you think would be the results just based on your experience of having a poor problem statement? I'm interested in seeing what you have to say before we go over some of the other examples in the next slide. So I'd like to spend a few seconds on that. Could you please share on your instant message? What are what results could you experience with the poor problem statement in a workplace?
We have misdirection. Without a strong statement, the team will be distracted working on the wrong problem or no problem, inability to get to solutions, wasted time when the problem really isn't identified, no support, unclear if process improvement effort fix the problem, project team will not know what the problem is, will not be engaged, project will fail.
Yeah.
No solution to a real problem, unclear process and lack of support. If blame is assigned, could lower morale.
Yeah, which affects employee engagement, right? And participation. This is what I love about teaching and facilitating adult learners. All of this experience that you're sharing on the instant message, I feel it, and I can just by, going through this, I know that these are things that you've personally seen or are experienced. So that just complements basically what you've already stated in the instant message, right? The results you mentioned, you could have a loss of customers in the long run because of all of the issues that you're dealing with, no clear direction. High labor and administrative costs, the cost that it takes to work on the project, everybody that you're getting involved, the duplications of efforts. So there's cost associated with that. You mentioned confusion, right? Which also can lead to lack of buy-in and support, because I don't know what the significance of this problem is. I've got other coals in the fire that need my attention, that are screaming for my help. So why should I spend time supporting this? Because I don't understand what the significance of your problem is, right? So lack of buy-in, lack of support, incorrect. You may even have incorrect areas that are receiving the support that don't need your support because of the unclear direction. Frustration and unnecessary conflict. Now, healthy conflict is good. You have different perspectives, that's fine, but you can have a lot of unnecessary conflict that could affect the morale and your productivity as a result of poor problem statements. So what you can leave here are the three main elements, right? Of course, you're going to have copies of the slides, but how much, right, of a problem do we have? How long it's been a problem, and what are the results, and how much in numbers, right? Results in numbers would be great too. Okay, great work. Now we're going to shift gears into goals. We described where we're at right now, right? We talked about the prerequisites. Now, where do we want to go? Where do we want to go, right? And you'll see that the benefits of establishing clear goals are very similar to the benefits of establishing clear problem statements, right? Did you know that most projects, right, over 80% of projects in organizations fail, right? Over 80%, that's significant, right? Think about all the time and effort. And why is that? Well, because most organizations, they don't follow a structure. They kind of wing it, right? They're winging it, right? And moving along the way. So with the structure that we learn, whether it's in project management and or Lean Six Sigma, they help, that framework helps to make your projects and your efforts more successful, okay? Efforts and projects with clear goals are more successful. It clarifies what goodness looks like, serves as a great communication tool. It also helps participants know how close they're getting to goodness and how far away they are from goodness, right? It helps with closure as well, which helps with getting buy-in. The closer, when you have a clear goal and you're making progress, it also helps with the confidence level of those that are participating in this effort. And it also helps everybody understand where they need to focus their effort. So if I were to use the analogy of effort, I would use an analogy of a magnifying glass, right? Where you got the sun rays, they're splattered, you got all this effort and all this energy just moving all over the place, right? It's like people, they're busy, they're working on things, right? But when you have a clear goal, it's like a magnifying glass. It gets all of this busyness and it gets it laser focused to have a powerful impact. Okay, and that's the significance of your goal. With your goals, we want to be specific, right? Clear, concise. What is the goal? What is not the goal, right? We want to include that as well. Think about that. Should be measurable, right? Have a numeric value. It should either be a number, a true or false statement, or a yes or no. It should be attainable. In other words, attainable, able to reach, right? If your goal is if it's over, if it's too significant, folks aren't going to take your goal seriously, right? So it's got to be practical as well. It's got to be attainable and relevant to where your future state is. And it should have a deadline. It should have a time date to it, a deadline, so that you know when you're done. Okay. Here's some things to consider, just like we talked about the prerequisites for creating a problem statement. These are some things to consider with your when you're creating your goal statement. It should be connected to your organizational needs. Okay. Also, it should be data driven. Your data is going to assist your support team in driving towards your future state. It should be rational, not just picked out of the air somewhere. Okay. In other words, it should consider your measurable current condition. You'd be surprised how many people take on projects without having an understanding of where they're at in their current condition, right? There is an art and science to setting goals. Myself, I tend to lean more on the science with measurables, but with the art, that comes with time and practice. A good practice is to run your goals by other people, right? So that they can ask some questions and help you refine your goals. So there's the art and science to setting goals. And I'm going to introduce you to the 70% rule that I've learned years ago in Lean. And the 70% rule goes like this. You have your goal, and your target is, after finishing your effort or your project, if you're at if you meet 70% of your goal, that's good, right? Why? If you meet 100%, everybody thinks, oh, that's great. Yeah, it is great, but it wasn't challenging enough. Okay, it was an easy goal, right? So you and if you're under 70%, your goal was too challenging, right? So 70% rule is a good rule of thumb when it comes to after you've implemented your project. Something to consider. All right, we're getting close to the end now. I want to, we talked about SMART goals, right? And we mentioned a few things when it comes to your goal. I'm going to share an example, and I'm going to ask you in the chat to describe what's wrong with this goal. And for those of us that are on Audible learning right now, or that are, have your earphones on, I'm going to go ahead and read it out too. For those of you that are listening that don't have a visual, it says here that the backlog of just-in-case service center is causing a lot of issues. This has been going on for many years. Both employees and customers are complaining about the issue. There's a lot of miscommunication and delays. If we train our employees to do their job better, our backlog issues will get much better. The management team work closely together to develop a goal, which is to reduce the backlog just-in-case service center. So what I'd like to find out is, in your instant message, what's wrong with this goal? And you can also think about some of the elements that were missing in your problem statement as well.
So we have some things coming in, not concise, not specific. How do you measure it? Solution is included, not timely. Too long and no measurable goal. What are the issues? What is much better?
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Yeah. Great job, everyone. Yeah, first of all, the goal is way too wordy, right? It's way too lengthy. You'd be surprised. I've seen some goal statements that are a page and a half, right? So seriously, all right. So first of all, the goal is way too lengthy and wordy. What type of backlog is there? Maybe there's different types of backlog, right? Are they, maybe you have a backlog of purchase orders, maybe you have a backlog of service requests, right? More specifically, or maybe they're engineering drawings, maybe they're reports, maybe they're contracts, right? So a little bit more specific on what the backlog is about. Where, you know, is this located, right? We want to reduce the backlog. How much? How much do we want to reduce the backlog by? You mentioned it. You nailed it. Solution is baked into the goal. How do we really know if employee training is going to resolve the issue? What if it's something else, right? How do we know if the employees are doing a bad job, right? When do we want to get better? And how will we know when we are better, right? So these are things to consider, right? It's very, very wordy, very, very vague, ambiguous, unclear, very general. Here's a better defined goal. It's a better defined goal, bit more clarity. Reduce the purchase order backlog from 10,000 units to 3,000 units at Justin Cursor Service Center location in Seattle by this date, right? It's better. Can it be refined? Absolutely, right? So another example, it's concise. It shows how much in numbers, what goodness looks like. We know that the goal is 3,000 units, right? We'll know that we're starting at 10,000 units and we have a date until September, and we can see how far along the line we are to reaching that goal and how close we are. Right? And I'm going to be opening it up to some questions and comments here in a bit. But what we've learned today in this lunchtime webinar is the benefits of using problem statements. We've learned the main elements to consider when creating a problem statement, the difference between a good problem statement, a bad problem statement. We learned that there's no perfect problem statement, but there are some problem statements that don't have the three elements of how much, how long, right, and the results of the problem. We also learned the benefits of using SMART goals. We learned the prerequisites to consider when creating a problem statement and a goal, and the difference between good goals and some bad goals. So again, hopefully at the end of this, this was brief. This was a brief session, but at the end of this, hopefully you'll be able to take some of this knowledge and practice it where you worked on. If you already knew this, well, brushed off some things that you've known and helped to refine your experience during this time. Any other questions that you have regarding what we went over today in regards to problem statements and our goals? You have my email address here, and you also have our office number as well. And I'm sure that at our professional development center, there's a lot of other types of programs that they got that you may be interested in. Also, just to bring awareness that we do have another online webinar coming up in August the 3rd, same time frame, Lean Six Sigma and project management, similarities and differences. And that'll be something I'll be speaking on as well. With that, I'd like to open it up and if there's any questions or comments, or hand it back over to you if you.
I'm gonna launch a poll that we'd love to have you do, so we can kind of understand what you liked and didn't like. And definitely this is a great time to chat. We have quite a bit of time here to talk with Nathan. I do think it's good. Thank you for pulling out the next one that we had, next summer sampler lunch and learn that we have coming up related to Lean Six Sigma and project management. We have these lunch and learns happening every Wednesday throughout the summer. So there's a whole variety of topics of things you could check out. And we encourage you to take a look at that. Our enrollment for fall is open already. So if you are excited and think this is something you want to spend some more time with, you can go ahead and register. If you have any questions about any of the courses that we're doing, feel free to contact us via email or that phone number, and somebody will get back to you with the details. But I would love to see if there are questions. So I have one question that came in here. What are some tips for leading a team through putting together a problem statement?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's a number of different ways that you can do this. One way is when you're working with your team is to go through what's going well and what could be improved, right? So you list all the items in their work task, what's going well and what could be improved, right? And for all the elements that could be improved, right, you can ask, what's keeping us from getting there, right? And then you can start going through your problem. Well, how much of this is a problem? How can we prioritize this? Now, some of the elements that we can go to as far as prioritization and everything like that, we cover in our Lean Six Sigma classes. But that's one way. Another thing that you could do is a start, stop, keep exercise with your team, right? What do we need to start doing, right? And list some of the things we need to start doing. Based on our past year, the work that we've done, what are some of the things that we just need to stop doing, right? Another thing that you can ask are, what are some of the roadblocks? What are some of the pain points that's getting in the way of us performing our tasks, right? And usually when you're working with your team that are actually there doing it, they're closer to the process, right? So a lot of times you may find that they do have a solution because they're closer to the process. Usually you want to stay away from solutions when you're dealing with a cross-functional, multi-work group problem, right? And you're kind of distant from the work itself, right? That's why you want to go out there and do some of your interviews. So those are a number of things that you can do to help out with getting a team together. You can also help them as far as prioritization, right? As far when it comes to when they start listing all the problems, what problem that we're facing is occurring most frequently, right? Based on frequency. That's one way that you can do that. Good question. Any other comments or questions? And feel free to raise your hand here or to speak as well. We wanted to leave some time at the end of the training to have some questions and dialogue as well if you wanted to. Okay. All right. I'm not seeing any other questions. How are we doing on the chat? Any other questions or comments?
Nothing else has come in, but at this point in time. But by the way, certainly if you have questions, you're certainly welcome to. Nathan's put his email up, so you can, after the session, if you think of something, you can shoot him an email and he can go over that. Oh, here a question just popped in. What would be your approach for walking back a poor problem statement? What a good question.
That's a great question. You know what? What I would do is I would start asking some questions. You know, one of the things that I like to do first is before making any prescriptions is I like to ask questions. And so if we have a poor problem statement, I would go straight to the questions. I would say, you know, how much of a problem is this, right? And then they would say, oh, it's a big problem, right? In some cases, how do we know that it's a big problem, right? And if you get this, you know, kind of deer the headlights, I would follow up by asking, well, what do we need to do to find out how much of a problem that we have, right? For the how much, or how long has this been a problem? Oh, it's inherited. It's been forever. How do we know that, right? Is there anyone that we know that we can point to that can assist us? So I would start with the questions, right? And then I would then follow up by saying, what do you think about, so instead of saying you need to, or I think you should, I would then phrase it, what do you think about us doing refining this problem statement by adding some kind of a measurable to the how much, and really clarifying the results that we're experiencing. So long answer short, I start off by asking some of the questions we went over in this session to help refine that in a respectful manner. That's a great question.
And Nathan Ross just wrote in, she said, a powerful phrase that helps is, how might we? This could be applied to a poorly framed problem statement. How might we strengthen the statement? How
Absolutely.
might we attach metrics, that kind of thing.
I love it. Love it. Love it. Yes. Yes. Great example. Thank you, Ross. Any other questions or comments over anything we went over today? All right. Well, just want to let you know it was a pleasure having you. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy day